silence inside you, a silence so ancient and so profound that it has never been broken by the noise of this world. And yet, as you sit here, as you listen to my words, you may feel that silence being drowned out by the countless voices. The ceaseless demands, the overstimulation of modern life. You see, we live in a time that has forgotten how to listen to the inner voice of the soul. Instead, it bombards us with images, with judgments, with incessant chatter. But there is something within you, perhaps you have felt it, that is not of this noise. It is a sensitive thread that connects you to all things. The thin golden filament of the psyche that trembles at the slightest vibration of truth or beauty. I wish to speak to this part of you, for it is both your greatest gift and your deepest burden. When I speak of the highly sensitive person, I am not using a clinical term, but a spiritual one. It is not merely a personality trait. It is an attunement, a subtle tuning of the soul. It is as if your inner ear is calibrated to hear the whispers of the unconscious, to sense the archetypes moving like shadows beneath the surface of ordinary life. You feel too much because you perceive too much. The collective unconscious, this great river of symbols, dreams, and forgotten truths flows through you more vividly than through others. But in a world obsessed with speed, efficiency, and noise, such sensitivity can feel like a curse. You are told to toughen up, to grow a thicker skin, to adapt to a rhythm that was never meant for your soul. And yet, if you were to suppress this sensitivity, you would suppress the very key to your own individuation, to your wholeness. Think of the dreamer who wakes in the middle of the night because the dream is too intense, too real, almost prophetic. Such a dreamer cannot simply return to sleep. He must understand the message. For the unconscious has spoken with the language of symbols. This is what life feels like for you. Is it not? Every day is filled with symbols, with signs, with the unspoken currents of emotion and meaning. Others pass by these things without noticing them. But you cannot. The archetypes speak to you in images, in sudden flashes of intuition. In the heaviness you feel when you enter a room filled with unspoken tension. You sense the shadow in others, the wounds they carry but refuse to acknowledge. This is why you often feel exhausted, as if you have been carrying burdens that are not yours. But let me tell you a secret. This burden is also your calling. Sensitivity is the raw material of transformation. The soul that feels deeply is the soul that can be transmuted, that can see beyond the surface of life. Do not believe for a moment that you are weak, because you feel so much. In truth, the sensitive soul is like the alchemist's vessel. It is capable of holding the heat of inner change, of allowing the raw metals of suffering to be turned into gold. And yet, this alchemical process cannot occur if you remain at the mercy of the world's noise. You must find your way back to that inner silence, that sacred center where the self resides. The self, this archetype of wholeness, is not the same as the ego. The ego is the mask you wear in order to function in society. It is necessary, but it is not the totality of who you are. The self is the totality the union of all opposites within you, your light and your shadow, your conscious mind and your unconscious depths. And the sensitive person, more than anyone, has glimpses of this self, sometimes in the form of dreams, sometimes in moments of overwhelming intuition. You feel the tension of opposites within you, the conflict between your need to belong and your need to remain true to your inner voice. This is the path of individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are. But individuation is not a comfortable path. It requires you to withdraw from the collective noise, at least for a time, so that you may hear the subtle guidance of the psyche. If you live constantly in the world's stimulation, you will lose this voice, and with it, you will lose yourself. Think of it like this. A musician cannot hear the delicate strings of a violin if he is standing next to a roaring engine. He must step into the quiet, into the space where the sound can be discerned. Likewise, you must learn to step away from the endless noise of society, not as an escape, but as a return to your true home. I have often said that the soul speaks in images, not in words. For the sensitive person, these images arrive unbidden, like messengers from another realm. You may see them in your dreams, or feel them in sudden waves of emotion that seem to have no course. This is the unconscious reaching out to you, asking for dialogue. But what do most people do when such images arise? They dismiss them, rationalize them, or drown them in distraction. You, however, cannot do this. Your sensitivity will not allow it. You must honor these images, for they are the language of your deepest self. They are the archetypes, the mother, the hero, the shadow, the wise old man appearing in forms tailored to your own life. Each archetype carries both light and darkness, both the potential for growth and the danger of obsession. To work with these forces is to work with the very fabric of your psyche. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a great cathedral, but the cathedral is not made of stone. It is made of your own thoughts, memories, and dreams. The stained glass windows are colored by your experiences, your joys and your sorrows. When the light of the unconscious shines through these windows, it creates patterns on the floor of your mind. This is how archetypes manifest. Each person has a unique pattern, but the light is the same for all. For the sensitive person, these patterns are not faint or abstract. They are vibrant, almost overwhelming. You may find yourself asking, why do I feel so much? Why does beauty make me weep? Or cruelty wound me so deeply? The answer lies in this cathedral of the soul. Your windows are clear, your glass finely tuned, and the light pours through with unfiltered intensity. But such intensity requires care. You cannot live with every window open to the storm, every door unguarded. There is a shadow side to sensitivity, and it is the risk of being consumed by the very forces you sense. If you do not learn to ground yourself, to hold the tension without being shattered by it, you will become lost in a maze of emotions that are not even yours. The unconscious is vast and impersonal. It contains not only beauty, but also darkness, chaos, and the remnants of our collective wounds. As a sensitive person, You are like an open channel. And this means you must discern what belongs to you and what does not. This is not easy, but it is essential. The first step in this discernment is to recognize your shadow. The shadow is everything you have rejected, denied, or feared within yourself. It is a part of you that society told you to hide. The emotions that were deemed unacceptable, the instincts you were taught to suppress. But the shadow is not evil, it is simply unrecognized energy. For the sensitive soul, the shadow can appear as overwhelming guilt, as shame for feeling too much, as anger turned inward. If you do not face it, the shadow will project itself onto others, and you will see in them what you cannot accept in yourself. This is why sensitive people often find themselves entangled in toxic relationships or situations. They see their own unacknowledged darkness mirrored back at them. To work with the shadow, you must have courage. You must be willing to look into the mirror of your own soul and see what is hidden there. Do not turn away, for in that darkness lies your strength. The sensitive soul is not meant to be fragile. It is meant to be forged like steel in the fire of self-awareness. When you embrace your shadow, when you integrate its lessons, you become whole. You begin to walk not as a wounded vessel, but as a conscious being who knows both light and darkness, and who can therefore bring balance to the world. To walk the path of wholeness means to accept that your sensitivity is both a wound and a doorway. It is a wound because it exposes you to the raw, unfiltered pain of existence. You may feel as though the world cuts too deeply, that the sorrows of others find their way into your own bloodstream, staining your dreams with suffering that isn't even your own. But it is also a doorway because this sensitivity allows you to perceive dimensions of reality that remain hidden from those who are hardened or numb. The heart that can ache so profoundly is also the heart that can love. Imagine and create with divine intensity. This duality is the essence of what I call the individuation journey. The movement from being fragmented by our experiences to being shaped, refined, and made whole by them. Consider for a moment the myth of Persephone, the maiden who is taken into the underworld. For many sensitive people, life itself feels like a descent into an underworld of overstimulation and noise. The modern world, with its relentless demands, is like Hades pulling you downward, forcing you into the shadows. But this descent is not meant to destroy you. In the myth, Persephone becomes both the queen of the underworld and the goddess of spring. She embodies both darkness and rebirth. This is the archetype of the sensitive soul, one who descends into the depths, feels every texture of pain and chaos, but returns with wisdom and the power to bring life back to the surface. Your sensitivity may lead you into dark places within your own mind, but it is precisely there, in the underworld of the psyche, that you will find the seeds of renewal. What does it mean to find renewal? It means to learn how to sit with your own emotions without being consumed by them. The sensitive person must cultivate an inner container, a space where the storm can rage without tearing you apart. This is what the ancient alchemists understood so well. They spoke of the vas hermeticum, the sealed vessel in which transformation occurs. You must become your own vessel, strong yet receptive, able to hold the tension between light and dark, joy and sorrow, noise and silence. If you do not create this vessel, your sensitivity will scatter you in 1,000 directions, leaving you feeling fragmented and powerless. But when you learn to hold this tension, when you allow the opposites within you to coexist without trying to annihilate each other, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see that your soul is not fragile glass, but radiant crystal, forged by the very forces that once threatened to break you. Think of your dreams, for they are the purest voice of the unconscious. In the dream world, all the noise of society falls away, and the symbols speak directly to you. Have you ever woken from a dream that left you shaken, as if you had glimpsed a truth too vast for waking life? Such dreams are not random. They are the whispers of your inner self, urging you to pay attention. The sensitive person often experiences dreams with unusual clarity because their psyche is already attuned to the symbolic. The challenge is not in receiving these messages, but in interpreting them, in allowing their meaning to unfold without rushing to rationalize. A dream is like a poem. Its truth lies in its imagery, its feeling tone, its resonance with the deeper layers of your being. There is a tendency in our age to dismiss dreams as mere byproducts of the brain. But I tell you, dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. They are the bridge between your ego and the greater self. If you feel overstimulated by life, if the noise of the world has dulled your inner clarity, I invite you to return to your dreams. Write them down, honor them, let them teach you. For the sensitive soul, dreams are not a luxury, but a necessity. They are the compass that points you toward your true path. Even when the external world is chaotic and overwhelming, but the path is not only inward. A sensitive person must also learn how to navigate the outer world without losing themselves. This requires boundaries. Though the word boundary may sound harsh or unkind to someone who feels everything, but boundaries are not walls. They are the sacred lines that define your energy, your values, your truth. Without them, you will be swept away by the tides of other people's emotions, responsibilities, and projections. You must ask yourself, what is mine to carry and what is not? This question is not selfish. It is essential for survival, for if you give all of your energy to the world, you will have nothing left to offer when it truly matters. One of the greatest traps for the sensitive soul is the compulsion to rescue others. You feel their pain as if it were your own, and so you try to heal, fix, or save them, but this is a dangerous path, for it often leads you to neglect your own needs, your own healing. You must remember that every soul has its own journey, its own shadow to face. To take on another's burden is to interfere with the sacred alchemy of their life. Instead, learn to hold compassion without losing your center. Offer your presence, your understanding, but do not drown in the suffering of others. True empathy is not merging with another's pain, but holding space for it while remaining grounded in your own being. This grounding comes from cultivating your connection to the self. The self is not the ego, not the persona you present to the world, but the living, breathing essence of who you are. It is both the seed and the tree, both the beginning and the end of your journey. For the sensitive person, connecting to the self means creating rituals of silence, spaces of retreat where the soul can breathe. It may be as simple as sitting by a candle and listening to your breath, or as profound as writing down the images that come to you in meditation. The key is to create moments where the noise of the external world fades and the voice of the inner world can emerge. I have seen so many sensitive souls fall into despair because they feel they do not belong in this world. They feel too different, too fragile, too attuned to survive in a culture that rewards hardness and speed. But I tell you this, the world needs you precisely because you are different. The noise of modern life is not the final reality. Beneath it all, the human soul is starving for meaning, for beauty, for depth. You, with your sensitive heart, are the messenger of these things. Your role is not to conform to the noise, but to bring forth the silence, the wisdom, the deep seeing that others have forgotten. Do you remember the first time you truly felt alive? Perhaps it was a moment in nature when the wind spoke to you like an old friend, or when you gazed at the stars and felt the vastness of the universe pressing gently against your soul. In such moments, your sensitivity is not a curse, but a revelation. You see, the soul awakens through moments of profound feeling. But these moments are rare because we have trained ourselves to avoid them. We fill our lives with distractions, so we do not have to face the immensity of our own inner world. Yet for you, this inner world is always present, calling you to listen. The great task of the sensitive soul is to integrate this inner world with the outer one. It is not enough to retreat into your own mind. You must bring your insights, your visions, your truth into the collective. This is not easy, for the collective often rejects what it does not understand. But remember, every culture needs its seers, its dreamers, its mystics. Without them, we lose a connection to the eternal. Perhaps you have felt like an outsider, someone who sees the world through a lens others cannot comprehend, but this is not a defect. It is a gift. The task is to learn how to live with this gift without being consumed by it. The archetype of the wounded healer speaks deeply to this truth. The healer is not one who has never suffered, but one who has suffered and transformed that suffering into wisdom. Your sensitivity is a form of wounding, but it can become the source of your greatest power if you allow it to teach you. This does not mean you must heal the entire world. It means you must begin with yourself. Heal your relationship with your own shadow, with your own unconscious, and from that place of integration, your mere presence will become healing for others. You do not have to speak a word. Your very being will carry the vibration of wholeness. There is an old story of a monk who carried water in a cracked pot. Every day, he filled the pot and walked to the monastery. But by the time he arrived, half the water was gone. The pot felt ashamed, thinking it was useless. But one day the monk said, Do you not see the flowers growing along the path? They are there because of you. The water you spilled nourished them. This is what I wish you to understand your sensitivity. Your cracks, your apparent weaknesses, they are what allow life to grow around you. Do not curse them. Instead, learn to walk with them as companions. To live as a highly sensitive being in this age is to live as though you are walking through a storm with your skin exposed. The wind of every word, the sting of every unseen tension cuts through you, and yet I tell you that this very exposure is what allows you to experience life with a depth that others cannot even imagine. You see the world not as a flat surface, but as a tapestry woven with invisible threads, threads of meaning, of archetypal patterns, of ancient stories still playing themselves out in the hearts of men and women. Your sensitivity allows you to perceive these patterns as if they were written in fire across the night sky. And though this vision may overwhelm you, it is also your doorway to transcendence. The world is loud. Yes, the world is chaotic, always seeking to pull you into its whirlwind of noise and urgency. But the sensitive soul does not thrive in this storm. It must learn to stand apart, to watch the movements of the world without being swept away by them. This does not mean retreating permanently, hiding yourself like a hermit, though sometimes retreat is necessary. It means cultivating the ability to step back and observe. There is great power in observation, in being the silent witness to both your own inner life and the collective dance of the world. When you observe without judgment, without trying to control what arises, you begin to perceive the hidden order behind the chaos. You start to see the archetypes moving like actors upon the stage, repeating their timeless roles. Have you noticed how certain experiences in your life keep repeating themselves? The same types of people, the same conflicts, the same wounds appearing again and again, as if the universe were trying to tell you something. This is no accident. These are the patterns of your psyche, the stories written deep within your unconscious, playing themselves out so that you may become aware of them. For the sensitive person, these patterns are not subtle. They arrive with force, demanding attention. You cannot escape them by numbing yourself or pretending they do not exist. The only way forward is through consciousness, through the courage to look directly at the patterns and ask, what are you trying to teach me? The archetype of the shadow often emerges in these recurring patterns. You may find yourself attracted to people who mirror your own hidden qualities, or you may feel an intense aversion to traits in others that you secretly recognize within yourself. This is projection, the mind's way of placing what it cannot accept in itself onto someone else. For the sensitive person, projections can feel like emotional storms because they carry both personal and collective weight. When you learn to withdraw your projections, to take back what truly belongs to you, you begin to reclaim your power. You realize that the darkness you feared in others is a reflection of the darkness you have yet to embrace within yourself. To embrace your shadow does not mean to indulge in your darkest impulses. It means to recognize them as part of your wholeness, as energies that can be transformed rather than denied. A person who has integrated their shadow is not less sensitive. They are more grounded. more capable of holding the full spectrum of human experience without being torn apart by it. This integration is a lifelong process, and it requires deep honesty. You must be willing to admit, even to yourself, that you are not only the light you show to the world, but also the darkness you hide. And yet, when you bring this darkness into the light of awareness, it becomes a source of power rather than a source of fear. I often speak of individuation, the process by which a person becomes whole. For the sensitive soul, individuation is not just a philosophical idea, but a daily necessity. You cannot simply live on the surface of life, because every surface noise penetrates you. You must dive beneath the noise into the depths of your being to find the unshakable center that can withstand the storm. This center is not your ego, not the persona you have crafted to please others or survive in society. It is the self, the archetype of totality, the divine image within you that holds all opposites in balance. When you begin to live from the self, your sensitivity is no longer a source of suffering alone. It becomes the very instrument through which you navigate the world with grace and authenticity. But how do you live from the self in a world that constantly pulls you away from it? You must create practices that bring you back to your inner core. Silence is one of these practices. I do not mean the mere absence of sound, but a profound inner stillness, a listening that goes beyond the ears. Sit with yourself, even for a few minutes each day, and let the noise of the mind settle like dust. In this stillness, you may hear the quiet voice of your soul, the subtle guidance that is drowned out by external clamor. For the sensitive person, these moments of stillness are not a luxury. They are the lifeline that keeps you connected to your essence. You may also find refuge in symbols. Symbols are the language of the unconscious, and they can serve as anchors for your sensitive psyche. A candle flame, a piece of music, a sacred object. These are not mere decorations. They are doorways to deeper states of consciousness. When you engage with a symbol, you are engaging with an archetype, with a force that transcends the personal and connects you to the collective soul of humanity. This connection can provide strength, reminding you that your sensitivity is not a solitary curse, but part of a greater tapestry of human experience. Nature, too, is a profound ally for the sensitive soul. When you walk in the forest or sit by the ocean, you are not merely observing nature. You are remembering something ancient, something your soul has always known. The rhythms of nature, the cycles of growth and decay, the balance of silence and sound mirror, the rhythms of your own psyche. In nature, you can feel the pulse of life without the distortions of human noise. You can breathe, expand, and remember that you are part of a living whole. This remembrance is healing, for it reminds you that your sensitivity is aligned with the truth of life, not at odds with it. However, do not romanticize sensitivity as if it were only about beauty and harmony. It will also lead you into pain, because to feel deeply is to be wounded deeply. But pain is not the enemy. Pain is the teacher, the initiator that calls you to grow beyond your current limitations. In every wound, there is a seed of transformation. if you are willing to see it. The challenge is to face your pain without identifying with it, to allow it to pass through you without letting it define you. This requires courage, for our instinct is to resist pain, to numb it or escape it. Yet, the sensitive soul knows that the only way out is through. Perhaps you have felt overwhelmed by the collective pain of the world. You turn on the news, and it feels as if every tragedy enters your own body. Every suffering soul cries through your own heart. It is easy to feel powerless in the face of such vast suffering, but remember, the collective shadow is not something you can heal alone. Your task is not to carry the entire weight of humanity, but to face your own inner world with honesty and compassion. When you do this, you contribute to the collective healing in ways that are subtle but profound. As you bring light to your own shadow, you become a living example of what it means to transform suffering into wisdom. Think of the archetype of the phoenix, the bird that burns and is reborn from its own ashes. This is the journey of the sensitive soul. You will burn, there is no avoiding it. You will feel as if your very identity is reduced to ash under the weight of emotion, under the noise and chaos of life. But from that ash, a new being emerges, one that is stronger, not because it is less sensitive, but because it has learned to carry sensitivity with grace. Each cycle of burning and rebirth brings you closer to your true self, to the unshakable core that no storm can destroy. To stand at the threshold of your own rebirth requires both surrender and strength. The sensitive soul often believes that strength means building barriers, numbing the senses, or pretending that nothing touches them. But real strength is found in vulnerability, in allowing life to touch you deeply and still choosing to remain open. It is not the absence of pain that makes you powerful, but the capacity to bear it without losing the truth of who you are. The modern world teaches us to fear sensitivity as if it were a flaw, to feel the trembling of the heart. But I tell you that your sensitivity is the very doorway through which the self speaks. Every soul has its unique rhythm, its own music. But the noise of the world is like a drumbeat that tries to drown out this inner melody. The sensitive person hears both the deep, haunting music of their own soul and the relentless pounding of external demands. This creates a tension that feels unbearable at times, like being pulled in two directions. And yet, within this tension lies the possibility of transformation. When you stop fighting against your own rhythm, when you surrender to the flow of your own soul, you discover that your sensitivity was never the problem. The problem was that you were trying to live according to a song that was not yours. Ask yourself, what is the melody of your life? What images, what dreams, what quiet truths rise within you when you allow the noise to fall away? Perhaps you have ignored these inner whispers because they do not fit the expectations placed upon you. The world tells you to be productive, to be efficient, to be strong in ways that often mean becoming less human, but the sensitive soul cannot betray itself for long. The longer you suppress your inner music, the louder the dissonance becomes, manifesting as anxiety, exhaustion, or a sense of being lost. The cure is not to silence yourself, but to honor the call of your inner world. There is a concept I've often spoken of, the anima and animus. the inner feminine and masculine energies that reside in every psyche. For the sensitive person, these energies are often out of balance because society itself is out of balance. We live in a culture that overvalues the masculine principle logic, speed, control, and undervalues the feminine intuition, receptivity, and inner listening. Sensitivity is deeply connected to the feminine principle, not because it is weak, but because it is receptive, like a vessel that can hold the mysteries of the soul. When you honor your sensitivity, you are honoring the feminine aspect of your psyche, which is the source of creativity, connection, and healing. But you must also cultivate the masculine energy of discernment, of setting boundaries, of saying no when the world demands too much. True wholeness arises when both energies are in harmony, when you can receive without being overwhelmed and act without losing touch with your inner truth. Your dreams often reflect this balance or lack of it. Pay attention to the figures that appear in your dreams. Are there wise old men, mysterious women, shadowy strangers? These figures are not random. They are aspects of your own psyche. Seeking integration, the sensitive person, because of their heightened inner perception, often encounters these dream figures with unusual clarity. They may appear as teachers, as challengers, or as mirrors of your deepest fears. If you dare to engage with them, to ask them what they represent, you will begin to see that every figure in your dream is a fragment of your own soul, calling you to become whole. The world may not understand this journey. You may be told that you are too much, too emotional, too quiet, too strange. But understand this, the world fears what it cannot categorize. And the sensitive soul defies categories. You are not meant to fit into the narrow boxes that society offers. You are meant to expand them, to bring depth where there is shallowness, to bring presence where there is distraction. This is why you often feel like a stranger in your own time, as if you were born into a world that does not speak your language. But perhaps this is exactly why you are here, to remind others of a language they have forgotten, the language of the soul. Imagine for a moment that you are walking through a crowded marketplace. People are shouting, bargaining, rushing. The air is filled with noise. But at the far end of the market, there is a fountain. The sound of the water is almost lost in the chaos. Yet it is steady, constant, pure. Your sensitivity is like that fountain. Even when the world is loud, there is a part of you that flows with a quiet strength. A part that is connected to the eternal. If you lean close enough, if you silence the outer clamor for just a moment, you will hear it. And when you do, you will realize that you are not as fragile as you once believed. You are water fluid, adaptable, resilient. But to live as water means you must also learn to flow. You cannot hold on to every emotion, every wound, every noise of the world, as if it were your responsibility to carry it all. Water flows because it lets go. It moves around obstacles, not by force, but by persistence. This is the lesson I offer you. Learn to let go of what is not yours. Let go of the guilt you carry for feeling too much. Let go of the voices that tell you to be someone you are not. Let go of the idea that you must fix everything and everyone. You are not here to fix the world. You are here to become whole, and in doing so, you will naturally radiate a presence that helps others find their own wholeness. The sensitive soul is often drawn to healing, to art, to spirituality, because these are the realms where depth is valued, where feeling is not a flaw but a source of insight. If you have felt called to these paths, honor that calling. Perhaps your art is not meant to be understood by everyone. Perhaps your words, your music, your creations are meant for the few who, like you, are awake to the subtleties of existence. Do not diminish yourself, because the majority cannot see your light. A candle does not apologize for being small in the face of the sun. It burns because that is its nature. You too must burn, not with the fire of anger or striving, but with the quiet flame of authenticity. And when you burn, when you live in alignment with your own soul, you will find that the world's noise no longer overwhelms you in the same way. It is not that the world has grown quieter, but that you have grown deeper. You have found a place within you that is unshaken by the storm, a still point that no chaos can touch. This is the gift of the self. It is like standing at the center of a wheel while the spokes spin around you. Life moves, changes, even rages, but you remain rooted in the eternal. If I could leave you with one message, it would be this. Do not fear your sensitivity. Do not try to numb it or harden yourself against it. Instead, learn to work with it, to channel it, to let it guide you. Your sensitivity is the bridge between the seen and the unseen, between the conscious mind and the vast, mysterious unconscious. Through it, you will find not only your own healing, but also the wisdom that can touch the hearts of others. Perhaps, as you hear these words, you feel a stirring inside, a recognition that you are not alone. Many have walked this path before you, the poets, the mystics, the dreamers who saw beyond the veil of ordinary life. They too were told that they were too sensitive, too strange, and yet it is their voices that have endured, that have spoken to the timeless depth of the human soul. You are part of this lineage. You carry within you the same light, the same quiet power. All you need is the courage to trust it. The world may never fully understand you. That is not your task. Your task is to understand yourself, to bring your unconscious into consciousness, to integrate your shadow, and to live in alignment with your true self. When you do this, you will find that the noise of the world becomes less threatening, because you are no longer defined by it. You are defined by something deeper, something eternal. So I ask you now, as if we were standing face to face in this moment, can you trust the gift of your sensitivity? Can you honor it as the compass of your soul rather than a curse? Can you see that within your trembling heart lies the seed of the self, waiting to blossom into its full radiance? If you can, then You will no longer feel like a victim of the world's noise. You will feel like a conscious participant in the great unfolding of life, a soul who is both deeply human and deeply connected to the infinite. Take these words with you as you walk back into the noise of the world. Remember that you are not the noise, you are the silence beneath it. You are not the chaos, you are the stillness at the center, and in that stillness you will find all the guidance, all the strength, all the meaning you have ever sought. For the self is not far away, it has been here all along, whispering through your sensitivity, calling you home,